issue of the inflation rate. Now, the statement coming from the spokesperson of the president that there will be no increase in petrol. Does this mean that subsidy is coming back through the back door?
Exactly. That's exactly what it means. It simply means that as it stands today, the market forces that we are supposed to be determining the price of petrol has been suspended. And it's also the more one aspect of it that the pains we've gone through to eliminate subsidy has actually been for nothing if we are suspending those factors. I think what the government should have done is to address the reason why we are seeing such jump in petrol price, which is basically the issue of exchange rate. You cannot allow two variables to move at the same time. The appropriate thing would have been if we had government had been able to have a hang on the exchange rate, then we would have been dealing with market movement, global market changes in the price of petroleum products, that's crude and refined petroleum product, Platt. And then we would have been dealing with marginal increments and marginal decreases in the price of petroleum products. But what has happened now is that because exchange rate has moved from about 400 and something when the exchange rate was harmonized to almost 1,000 naira, we've seen such increase in the landing price cost of fuel that even at the pump price today, it no longer covers the price of importing fuel. So what that means is that the government has reintroduced subsidy, and then the pain we have gone to move the price of fuel from about 200 naira to more than 600 naira has been for nothing. And that, for me, is a great of great concern.
Would you call it policy somersault or government hypocrisy? How would you describe it?
Well, what else can you call it? It's more, I think policy somersault is more apt. But the key thing, like I said, that the decision to deregulate the downstream sector and the decision to harmonize the exchange was not properly thought through. And the fact is that, and I've said it at different fora, the government should have prepared very well to ensure that when they harmonize the exchange rate, we achieve some level of exchange rate stability and not the drastic depreciation we've seen in the past couple of weeks. And that's why, like I also said in those fora, that once you begin to see a depreciation in the local currency, you're going to see landing cost of imported fuel at a price that will compel pump price to continue to be adjusted upwards. And that's what we saw. But now, the government saying that they will no longer allow prices to increase simply means if Platt increases beyond the current level, the government has absorbed the difference. If exchange rate depreciates further, the government has absorbed the difference. In effect, the government has reintroduced subsidy. So if you have moved subsidy away and Nigerians have taken this pain over the past couple of weeks and you are reintroducing subsidy, then it simply means the pain we've gone through has been for nothing.
Now, so a lot of things have happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are the expert here. I see a lot of speculation and a lot of panic in the market, which has affected Forex. It has affected consumption. It has affected pricing of commodities in the market. Government is struggling and battling to control these forces. Government wanted to control things. It manually wanted to re-enter into the market. Things are boomeranging every day, and it looks like a bull in the China shop. Is that the situation we find ourselves? How do we calm the situation? No cabinet yet. Yes, we have the minister designate, but they have not been officially inaugurated. If you were President Tinubu, with a situation that looks like our economy is in jitter and is dancing hip-hop in the fastest mode that it can, where do we go from here, Mr. Chukwu?
Well, we start by addressing the mistakes we made. The first mistake was that, like I said earlier, the decision to announce the removal of subsidy and as the decision to harmonize the exchange was done without thinking through it. A couple of things needed to have been done. Let's start from the issue of removing the subsidy. The previous government had planned to take out the subsidy, and we are mitigating a measure that we are supposed to put in place before the subsidy was removed. One of which the government had planned to bring in 1,000 buses, about 20 per state capital, to distribute in all the 6 states of the country and Abuja to reduce the cost of transportation impact of subsidy removal. The government had a plan to introduce the issue of CNG powered vehicles. Some of these measures should have preceded the subsidy removal. Now, the current government has come up with, they're going to bring in 3,000 CNG-driven buses. But if you take time to manufacture those buses when you place the order. So I don't see any of those buses coming here earlier than 9 months to 1 year. At that point, the damage on the economy would have taken place, would have already happened. So that's as it relates to the subsidy removal. Measures should have been taken before the subsidy was removed. As harmonizing the exchange rate, the first thing that the government should have done was take stock of the arrears of unmet demand, matured letters of credit that had not been negotiated, payments due to the airlines that had not been paid, then payments due to or bids for forex by foreign portfolio investors that sold their Nigerian instrument that wanted to exit. They would have taken stock of that and arrived at maybe is it $10 billion, is it $20 billion, and then provision would have been made that at the point when you harmonize the exchange rate and harmonize the higher rate, you would have provided to take care of those arrears of unmet demand. That would have calmed the market, because what would have happened was the market would have had a feeler the government or the central bank had the capacity to meet obligations that they fall due. The problem was that when the exchange was harmonized and those who had arrears of unmet demand had to lock in exchange losses, as you have seen many companies report huge exchange losses, still they were not able to access forex to clear those arrears, and that said panic. That made them move into panic mode, because if you have lost about 40% of your naira value in dollar terms, and then you really can't still access that funding from the central bank to be able to meet that obligation, you will want to access forex at any exchange rate. And then when this will move to the parallel market to exchange exchange rate, the demand in the parallel market outweighed the supply in the parallel market, and then we began to see the currency depreciate. So you have to retrace your steps and say what went wrong and where did we get it wrong? And once we can do this articulation, we can now decide. The first thing we need to do is that the federal government or the central bank, of course, when you talk of the federal government and the central bank, I have to use them as if they are simultaneous, if they are similar or the same entity, because there's no way the central bank can access funding support without the federal government weight. So the first thing they need to do is that the federal government needs to assess funding support, what do you call it, balance sheet support or balance of payment support from maybe the International Monetary Fund or any of the bilateral reserve bank in the world that the government has very good relations with. Yeah. That we use to clear those arrears and restore confidence in the market.
Mr.